Abel, do you have your chat up? All right, we are close to 3 o'clock, at least if you are on the East Coast. So I'm going to just kind of go over a few things before I hand it over to our volunteer and expert, Abel, to get started. So hi, I'm Kelly. I am the Marketing Program Manager at Start Small. We will be sharing a recording of this afterwards, so you don't feel the need to have to take screenshots or too many notes, but do take notes if you're thinking about your plan as we go through each of these steps. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question, but we will have a large portion of today to do a Q&A at the end. And also, if you have any questions, but you would prefer to chat instead of unmute yourself, you can also use the chat feature, and I'll be helping to manage and field those questions. So I think that's kind of it for housekeeping. Abel, do you want to start sharing your screen?
Yes, I'm just changing over my screens now. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon out of your busy schedules. And again, thank you so much, Kelly, and really Start Small, Think Big for kind of inviting me to speak with you all today. So, what we're really going to be talking about, and let me just share my screen now, is really how you build a digital marketing plan. So, kind of taking a look at a lot of the questions that you all had, people were really asking, where do I really even start? What are the first steps that I need to take in order to really build something that's successful? So, what I'm going to focus on today is, not really the specific tactics that you can do. I think you can find articles and read about this, but really the fundamentals that need to go into how you build a successful plan and what really needs to be the foundation and underpin everything that you are thinking about to really be successful. So, just to give you a little bit of background about myself. So I have spent about the last 7 years working in marketing. So previously worked at an advertising agency, Mad Men style, where I was doing both B2B and B2C marketing for some of the largest companies in the world. So leading, Super Bowl campaigns for Pringles, working on rebranding for HSBC, and helping to make, digital cameras feel accessible to younger millennial and Gen Z audiences. So really learning how to pull that all together and create really beautiful brand narratives was really what I focused on. And in the last 2 years, I've transitioned really into the B2B software space. So helping to market a market research platform that helps to put consumer insights in the hands of businesses. So we basically combined together a real-time, market research platform along with our own custom panels. So really people are using it to field surveys and help with everything from product ideation to innovation sprints to advertising testing, which is pretty awesome. So that's a little bit of my background, but I'm excited to really talk about how I can take some of the learnings I've had over my last few years and really find out ways that we can start applying that to your specific business and the challenges that you guys face every single day. So again, thank you all so much for joining. I'm really excited to chat with you all here. So, so when I think about it, when people come to us, especially when I was working in advertising, dealing with all different types of businesses, really a few challenges came to mind. And really taking a look at some of the questions that you had, it's funny how even some of the largest companies deal with these challenges. So really the fundamental questions here are, I have a limited budget, I have limited time. So you're all trying to make the product, you're trying to do the services, you're trying to do everything. And on top of that, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to now think about marketing. Most of the time you don't even have time to do the fundamentals of keeping your business alive. Which is pretty interesting. Two, most people have a lot of confusion about where to even start, right? Like, I don't know where to start. Where should I even be doing? Like, what are the first few steps that I need to take? Three, like, I'm not really sure what content to create. Like a lot of you here in this room, like I don't have Photoshop skills. I don't know how to use InDesign. I don't even know like how I would approach something like that. And I think for a lot of people, it feels really daunting to approach something like that. But luckily over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of really cheap platforms come out that can help to make this really accessible for you, which is pretty exciting. So no longer do you have to spend, 200 hours learning how to use Photoshop. You can really take some of those skills and do it on a much smaller scale for yourself. And then finally, it's really difficulty in staying consistent across all your marketing. And I think the biggest thing that I always find, challenging, especially for entrepreneurs and people who are just starting their business, is that you are trying to be everything, right? Like you are trying to be the photographer who does bat mitzvahs, who also does advertising, who does photo shoots for weddings. And a lot of times your consumer finds it really confusing. They're like, I go to this website, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. I have no idea what you sell. And it's just so hard to understand. So it's really that unclear messaging that we're going to really laser focus on today, because I think, especially when you don't have large budgets, being super crystal clear about what your messaging is will make your efforts so much more successful, which I think will be really important for all of you. So really, today we're going to go into, I don't even know where to start, but I'm going to give you the first few steps. And by no means is this meant to be comprehensive, but really in the 15 minutes, like, where can I even start? So, here are the 4 really key questions that I always ask myself, whether I'm approaching marketing a B2B software platform, to marketing $3 Pringles, to marketing a digital camera. These are the things that every marketer thinks about. And I think these can be so applicable to how you think about your marketing plan and your marketing strategy. So why does it matter? I think even if you had $2 million right now to make a Super Bowl commercial and make the best advertisement in the world, and you had all the resources at your hand, if you don't fundamentally talk about your product in the right way, if you don't fundamentally understand who your end client is or who your end customers that you're trying to sell to, it doesn't matter if you have all the budget in the world. So I think this is one of the fundamental, foundational things that you really have to iron out. So the first question, and I know this sounds really silly here, but who is your customer? So I think the first question I do when I analyze kind of small businesses is take a look at the last year in terms of, your product sales and the services that you've sold. Who, if you were to kind of segment that out, who are the top people that are buying your product? Who are the people who have come back to you time and time again? It's like, oh, I really love your service. Let me engage you again. Who are the people who are coming to you word of mouth? What are the industries they're working in? And like, what are the qualities that really make them unique? I bet if you took a look at yourself and took a look at your products, whether you are selling, bagel chips to millennials, or whether you're a videographer that specializes in creating, bat mitzvah videos, you should figure out who you are trying to sell to, and really what makes that audience special too. So I think, by knowing who your ideal customer is better than anyone else in the world, you can make sure that your messaging is just laser focused on them. And what really matters is, as you start to think about how you scale up your marketing efforts, it helps you be more effective and efficient. If you know that every single dollar and every single hour that you're spending on marketing is targeted to the exact right person, you know that your marketing dollars and your marketing efforts are working so much more impactfully, which I think is super important. So the next thing that we think about is, what are you really selling, right? And again, I know these sound like silly questions. They seem like, oh, like, of course I know what I'm selling, but does your customer really know what you're selling? So many times when I go to websites, when I go to people's social media, especially for businesses that are really starting to kick themselves off the ground, if within 5 seconds, that's about the typical time that a consumer will spend trying to understand what you do. If within 5 seconds, I don't walk away understanding exactly what you're selling and why I need it in my life, then I'm not going to engage you any further. I'm not going to take the next step to contact you for a demo, to buy you in store, to go on your website and make an e-commerce purchase. So, I always think about it like this, but if I were to get on a call with someone and I was to pitch you this product, what would you tell me in 30 seconds? Only 30 seconds. You don't have any other time, space to tell me. And I think that's so important. And I think, especially this is the most important for when a new customer comes to your website. Again, you must make it super clear and evident what they're doing. Next, so why I think digging a little bit deeper into the psychology of it, really, if you think about marketing, it's nothing other than applied human psychology. Because what you are doing is finding a product and figuring out where it intersects in your end consumer's life and finding a way to really marry that in a creative way. So what are some of the reasons that people are looking for your product, right? Is it that there are no other solutions available to them right now? They've had trouble with the quality of a different food product. They don't like the taste of another food product. They don't like what a competitor's messaging stands for and how they're approaching their brand purpose. What is your target audience not looking for? Like, are they not looking for a certain type of food ingredient? Are they not looking for a certain way of a design that you're, perhaps doing? And I think what's really important here is using your customers as a constant feedback loop. So anytime you do make a sale, anytime you do have a customer buying your product, ask them these questions like, why did you come to me? What products, what was attractive about our product offering that made you want to purchase what we have? So I think that's so important, and something that is often done that a lot of people aren't doing. They're not using their customers to really be a constant feedback loop, especially when they're developing new things, when they're thinking about their upcoming product launch strategies. It's so important to keep that customer with you at all times. So, really thinking about what separates your product from your competitors, right? So take a look at the space around you. Like, what are the similarities in your product to what other people are offering, and what is the potential areas of opportunity and white space there? So, something that we really do every time we launch a new product, whether it is for a new potato chip, whether it is for a new camera, is that we do a heavy analysis of everything that our competitors are doing, whether that is a upstart or whether that's the largest company in the world. We're looking at how they're messaging things. We're looking at how they're thinking about their marketing, because that, in the end of the day, should really influence how you're approaching it. Because if you sound exactly the same as your competitor, or if you're really just making yourself not look that different, then you're gonna have a lot of trouble really standing out and really grabbing their attention. So thinking about that, I think, is really important. And next, where do your customers find you? So, I think one thing that we like to think about a lot here is what are the best places that your customer can find you? Where are they doing the research right now to learn about your product? And what are the different channels? So I think a lot of times, again, this goes back to talking to your customers, understanding the journey that got them to there. So if I am a vegan cookie that is specifically has health benefits, I might want to go find out, hey, most people are really consuming me, post workout class. What are the best ways that I can really go to a local Soul Cycle or something like that to do a partnership or sell my product there? So thinking about where your customers, where your customers are looking for you, where they have traditionally found you, where they want to find you is so important. And I think when you think about digital, making sure that your website makes it super easy for them to contact you, right? I think that's a lot of mistakes that I see, is that they make it difficult to find the contact us button. Where's your phone number? Where's your address? Where are all these things? And I think that makes it hard. So you want to make your product as easily accessible in all the right places. So that's not to mean you want your product everywhere and on every shelf in front of everyone's faces. You want to make sure you really think about the right places to include it and where makes the most sense based on your product, and at the end of the day, who that ideal customer is. So what happens now? So, obviously I know this is very, high in the sky, but being able to really master these fundamentals will help to shape everything that you do, right? So I think, some of the most easy things that you can do are, one, we talk a lot about inbound versus outbound marketing. So you have people that are coming to you via referrals, via, people have tried your product, making sure that you build a website that really encapsulates all these things. Again, you have about 5 seconds to grab their attention. So making sure, one, they know what your product is, they know why I should purchase your product, they understand why it matters to them, and making sure that's so clearly accessible to them. And two, I think you can use, social media as a great way. So I think there are a lot of tools right now. One that I love to use called Canva. I think it's either free or $9 a month, but it allows you to make pretty high quality creative assets. And I think the way that you need to think about your social media is, this is not a place to just put photos of your product, right? Like, no one really cares that you're putting up, a million photos of your product. They're looking for ways that you can develop content that sure alludes to your product, but really truly add value to their lives. So, one of my favorite examples is There's this company called Remedy. They are a probiotic, postbiotic type product, but what they use their Instagram for is really to give healthy recipes to their end consumer, right? Finding ways and understanding that consumer and giving them what they want is how they stay top of mind and how they stay relevant. So that's an example there. But even on our end, like working at a B2B company, what we've done is we've started a webinar series where every week we pick a different consumer topic, whether that is what the future of the home looks like, how consumers are approaching grocery stores, and we use the data from our platform to really inform our end consumers, which a lot of times are large brands, on how consumer sentiment is shifting. So it's not a webinar that's like, hey, here's our product, here's a million things that's amazing about it. It's really, here's something I know you need. I know you need data, and finding ways to give that to them without being too salesy. So I think that's just so important as you kind of start to think about your initial ways of approaching it. So, that's really, I know, the fundamentals and here, and by no means is this be all end all. There's a million things that you can do, but I think the thing to be cognizant of is that if you don't lock down these fundamentals here, you can do all the things in the world, but they're not going to resonate. You can put all the money in the world into Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and put SEO articles and all that up. But if you're not sure who your customer is, what you're trying to sell to them, and they don't walk away super clearly understanding that, it's going to cause you a lot of pain and strife later down. So now we want to jump over to some Q&A questions here.
Yeah, we actually able, on the next slide, there should be a couple that we pulled from some of your registration questions. So if you want to walk through that, and then we can kind of at the end of this add any more or additional questions that we have from our participants.
Yeah, definitely. So I think when you think about what specific tactic you can do and execute quickly, I think one, before you even start that, understand your target consumer. So go back to the W's from the earlier and really do an exercise. Sit down for a couple of hours, map it out, think about what those things mean to your business, I think are so important. Two, thinking about the different channels that you can use. So obviously when you don't have a lot of budget, you can use one, social media platforms and creating content that is really additive to them. That doesn't cost any money to do, and you can start to gain an organic following around it, which I think is pretty great. Two, so this is a question of how has COVID changed marketing strategies? So I think this is obviously interesting because of the fact that in the food business, we've seen that there has been the largest growth and actually grocery shopping and food spend that we've ever seen, right? So as people have started to shift some of their spend from restaurants that they would have traditionally spent on that or other types of outside dining, there's more opportunities for, food businesses. So it was interesting. We actually did a webinar recently with New Hope Network, which focuses really on helping, young food businesses really stick out and give them the data that they need. And one thing that we saw is that how can a brand help to give content that can help support people during this time. So an example of that is we know for a fact that parents right now are struggling with trying to deal with, back to school with a kind of hybrid model of having to teach their kids. So if I were a food business right now, how can I create custom recipes that use my food just for parents? How can I create different activities that parents can use around food and the dining time? Really to help build my brand awareness, because at the end of the day, it's about figuring out what your customer needs right now and figuring out how your product can best serve that, I think is so important. Let's see, next one. What's the best way to implement following strategy development? Again, I think the most important thing to think about, to yourself is one, make sure you set really strong expectations about what you can and can't do, right? I think people sometimes put on Facebook ads and they think, oh my God, I'm going to get 1 million followers or I'm going to make all these sales right now. I think you need to be realistic about it, right? It takes time to build a strong brand and it takes time to make all those efforts, effective. But I think what's most important here is that if you don't understand the fundamentals of who your customer is, why they want you, then it really will not be impactful, right? Because I think if you understand what your customer wants and where they are and what they need, then that will guide your strategy, right? Because if I know that, for example, if I was a food brand that specifically wanted to target millennial moms, then I would go and develop a marketing strategy that was all based on ways to intersect millennial moms. So how do I create content that provides recipes or food to them? How do I, go to places where I know moms are spending time, whether that is a Facebook chat group or a Facebook forum, or whether that is different accounts that they're really frequenting, whether that's different blogs. How do I find ways to create content that really helps to support them? I think is really fundamental there. And again, here, like there's a lot of really great free resources out there. So, you can use content calendars. So being able to map out over the course of a year, 6 months, 3 months, what your objectives are from a marketing perspective, that can help you see and maximize what you're doing. So, I actually heard this really interesting analogy yesterday about calling marketing content and like what you create from marketing, basically this idea of a Thanksgiving turkey. So on Thanksgiving, you might have a big turkey and that's your big thing. So you might have a big marketing thing that you're doing, whether that's like a guide, or let's say you make recipes for kids. But then how can you take that turkey and divide it up into a bunch of different little meals afterwards, right? So how can you cut that up to make social content? How can you do email strategy for that, which I think is important as well. So something there. And again, there's so many really great websites that can let you make high quality creative assets. So I'm not saying you're gonna have Super Bowl level ad concepts right now coming out of it, but things like Canva, things like Unsplash can give you really great stock photos that look pretty high quality and really give you that creative flexibility. So there's templates that you can use, anything from static images for Facebook all the way to video assets that you can do, which is pretty great. And then in terms of competitors, so what I like to do always is not only use Facebook ad library, so that gives you the opportunity to see what paid ads they're doing, but take an opportunity to go and spend some time scrolling through the last year of what your competitors have been doing on Facebook, on Instagram, if they're large enough to have PR, what press they've been getting, what does their website look like? Like look at all those different touch points to really get a strong understanding of what they're doing, when they're doing it, how they're approaching it. I think so many times marketing is not truly a super original thing, right? At this point, a lot of things have been done, but it's really how do you take some of the ideas that other people have had and tailor them to something that's unique to your brand and really what they're doing. So, I don't think it's going to be unique to say, oh, let's do a webinar, but how do you do a webinar that really fits the needs of your end clients and your end consumer, which I think is so important.
Hey, well, I'm going to jump in here because we have a lot of questions in the chat. So I'm going to read some out to you. Amy wants to know how to calculate the budget for the ads in the different stages.
Yeah, so I think I guess there's a few questions for that, right? Because, if Facebook is really a pay to play model, so is LinkedIn. So the more budget that you have, the more exposure frequency that you're going to get, right? So it's not like I can tell you, oh, you're going to spend $10 and you get that, right? I think the best thing to do, there's a couple of things that you can do if you have really limited budgets. So both Facebook, Google Ad Network, and LinkedIn let you do custom audience matches, right? So if you have an existing CRM, you can actually download that audience and upload them directly to those platforms. So I think you have minimum need to have at least 1,000 people, but that can let you be really laser targeted with your ad spend. And that can help you there. So I think that's one thing. Two, I think being able to really lock down your target audience there. So Facebook gives you a lot of ability to add qualifiers, to add different traits of those audiences. Being able to do an exercise on that, that'll just make sure that the right people are seeing your content. So I think that would be probably number two. And number three, both Facebook and LinkedIn, they have website retargeting. So having people who come to your website who are interested about your product, being able to retarget them on those social platforms with additional content that push them back to your website or offers that get them wanting to learn more, I think is really great. So those are three ways that I like to think about it, at least. But I think it's
actually. Do you mind? I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe for Facebook, if you put in your target audience, kind of whether it's geographically, whether you have age range, whether it's interest, I believe they actually give you a minimum spend that you have to spend. Am I wrong there?
It's not necessarily a minimum spend. It's that it'll tell you the amount of people you'll reach based on that dollar. So if I spend $5, if let's say my audience is millennial moms and that's a 20 million person audience, for $5, I may only be able to reach 200 or 300 of those people. And you think about it, like typical click-through rates, we're talking about maybe 1 to 5% of people who are actually engaging with your ads. So it's not going to be like I'm putting $5, I'm going to magically get 1 million people to my website. Facebook also works on a bidding system. So if you're looking for an audience that is quite popular, it's going to make it even more expensive for that. So again, I think that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I would say going back to the fundamentals are, do you know who your audience is? Do you know exactly who you want to reach? And like, what are the low hanging fruits? Like you're using your CRM list or using your website. That would be really great.
Great. And then the next question we have from Irene is, what is inbound and outbound marketing?
Definitely. So I would think about inbound like your website, right? So that is people who are researching you and coming directly to you. So that's not you doing zero effort. They've heard about your product from a friend. They've heard about something like that. And then outbound, so it can mean different things. In the world I live in, that means it's a sales representative who is sending emails to prospective clients and trying to get them to buy the product. That could be using paid social acquisition to get your messaging in front of people, or organic social, and trying to draw people in that way. So think about it in kind of those two ways.
And did that answer your question, Irene? Feel free to unmute yourself or continue to add something if you want more specifics. And then we have one from Sprathia. How important are industry reports like IBIS World, IBIS World? Because they're all expensive. I remember these from back in my day. They are expensive.
I guess I need a little bit more clarification. What do you mean exactly by industry reports?
I guess maybe purchasing some of those like really expensive in-depth reports that some of the research companies do to help inform whether it's your customer, maybe it's trends. I mean, if you see value there, if you're a small business kind of just starting out.
Again, I think you have to look at your full budget, right? So I think as a small business, it's all about ruthless prioritization. So if you only have $1,000, then like right now you need to think about what is going to give you the maximum impact for your $1,000. So like I always say is, can you make your website better? Like what traffic you're getting to that and how can you improve that experience is probably going to be a lot more impactful at an early stage than that. Though I do have to say what's been really interesting, especially during COVID, is that most market research companies are doing free webinars and free reports. So maybe they're not super customized to what you exactly need, but there's a lot of really good insights. So even my company, if you go to Suzy.com, we have a COVID-19 hub where we've been doing basically weekly research reports, completely free. You can download our webinars, but we've done topics such as back to school. We've done topics like analyzing the home, analyzing how cities are transforming. So there's a lot of free resources out there that you may want to tackle first. But obviously, as you get larger budgets, being able to spend a little bit more on consumer research is going to only help you there.
I would also say if you just Google things, you can find a lot of free insights and research to begin with before you even start paying for it. All right, and then we have a question from Kim. How do I market a father's right business to athletes and parents? Any thoughts on athletes and parents in that audience?
Yeah, so I think going back to what I talked about a little bit earlier, right? The things that I would ask a business as I was trying to do this is, one, why, I guess even starting even a step back, right? Like your father's right business, what exactly are you offering and why athletes and why specifically parents, right? Like what are those two audiences and why do they want your product? Because I think what I would do is making sure I would do probably some interviews with people who have purchased your product in the past and say, hey, why do you like what I'm offering? What's special about it? Why did you come to us versus someone else? Because I think that's probably where you need to start, right? And then from there, you can inform your website strategy. You can inform, some of your organic social strategy and some of the other tactics. But I would really spend some time trying to get to know your consumer more than anything else, and especially people who have purchased your product in the past. It's really a great opportunity to use it as a springboard to think about how you best activate against that group.
Thanks. All right, now I realize I have 2 minutes left, so I want to make sure if there are any other questions. I think we have one more that just came in on the chat. Dana wants to know, she has her ideas, but what are your suggestions on marketing to businesses who need ESL training for their employees?
Um, yeah, so I think a potential option here. So you're looking to market your business who need to businesses who need ESL. So I think you could probably create both blog content or free content to start off with, just to kind of tease a little bit of the different solutions that you're offering. So I would think about creating. I would think about maybe creating a blog article that's like, here are 5 things that, 5 beginning tips for how to train new English speakers or something like that. Or here are the biggest cultural differences that ESL learners don't understand. Like being able to find ways that you can basically underpin some of your content to help support that's really great. So it looks like here, Dana, you're saying you already have some blog articles. So making sure that you really take a look at your SEO strategy. So understanding, what are some of the keywords that rank against ESL and how you get there. It's not going to be 1 or 2 blog articles. It's going to take a lot of work to get you up there. Like companies like myself, we still struggle with that, and it takes a lot of time to do it. But that's something that you can do there. I think 2, finding out ways that you can do like seminars or free webinars might be really great for you, right? So if I know that my target audience is businesses, I might do a webinar once a week that's offering a free ESL training 101, right? That might be a really quick, easy strategy for you to show your service without them fully committing before they ever do something like that. So I think that's really interesting.
And then we are at time. It is 3:30. I promise to get everyone out of here on time because I know you're a busy entrepreneur. So we will be sharing this afterwards. It's going to be on our Facebook page. So if there are additional questions you have about digital marketing or for Abel, I'll just compile them and I can share them back with Abel afterwards so that we can make sure you have answers. But everyone, thank you. Be on the lookout. I'll be sending an email about to follow up. And yeah, have a great rest of your afternoon wherever you are. And I hope you learned something today. And Abel, thank you so much for your time and for your guidance.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kelly. And wish you all the best of luck. And hopefully some of these tips are helpful as you start to craft your marketing strategy approach.
Yes, everyone should now be able to start their digital marketing plan. All right, everyone, take care. Have a good afternoon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.